In this 4-minute video, we'll have a really quick look at a way of doing real-time research around somebody that you're about to call for all of the products and product services that Yell has to offer, and do it in such a way that talks about setting up for a solution rather than a series of product sales. Now, I'd like you to imagine that Google, this is the first page of Google on a desktop, and that Google has a finite number of spaces available, some of which are paid, some of which are earned through reputation or rank, and some of which because the business is registered locally. So when we look at this, we can regard it as like a high street with pop-up shops, 10 of which are the organic listings, 7 of which are going to be paid search listings, a number of which will be product listing ads or Google Shopping, and then not to ignore the localized search which Google is giving a lot of weighting to around businesses for searches which are to do with near me or a particular town or city. So when we think about that, really what we're asking people to do when we approach them with a proposition is, first of all, how can you be found? And how can you ensure that you dominate the real estate? I know it sounds cheesy, but think of dominating that real estate, that kind of area of Google on page 1 that by definition will force other people off onto the 2nd, 3rd or 4th pages. So how do we do that? Let's start with the domain name. You know that. Let's start with researching the main offer or the service offers that people have, which is, let's take a plumbing business, probably got 3 or 4. They might have an e-commerce offer for bits and pieces, both to trade and to consumers. They certainly will have a maintenance section and a distress maintenance section, 24-hour service. And of course, the main business might well be installations of new boilers and the lifetime value that comes after that. So sticking with that example, we can perhaps create a number of key terms. Now, it's dangerous to fall into the trap of thinking, well, if we said to a plumber, what do you like to be found for, so that we can see how you're doing against your competition, they're bound to say something which we would call headline terms. They might say new boilers or boiler installation, and a headline term doesn't have a verb, doesn't have a qualifier, doesn't have a location, which all suggest a kind of an intent to buy rather than a classroom project. So the second area we'd look at is longer tail keywords, 3 plus 4, 5, 6, 7 keywords. Let's just think about that for a minute. It might be new Bosch condensating boilers in or around me, or it might be a location, Birmingham. And then it might even have the word like best offer or most trusted or cheapest. All of those are buying intent phrases. And so when we start to add those two together, if you look at 3 and 4 here, and then do a search, what we're going to end up with is some clues, first of all, naturally, as to where they sit in Google, which page are they on. And frankly, if they're not on page 1 and we start looking on page 2 and 3 and we find them, that's quite good, because we want to help them if there's a near miss. In other words, I'm nearly on page 1. If they're nowhere to be found, page 10, the first 100 searches organically, and they're not doing paid search or any product listing ads, and they're not registered their business, it's a bigger ask, but we'd like them to feel that we can move them forward quite quickly. So what we're likely to do then when we've got that information, and you can do this whilst you're on the call, is to say, look, here's where we found you for what we consider to be purchase intent keywords or search terms. And that's why you could also say we've ignored new boilers or boiler installations because it doesn't imply commercial intent at that stage. The competition is really fierce for that, and it's likely that even if we were to do a paid campaign around those small keywords, those headline terms, we'd have to pay a lot, and the cost of acquisition might actually erode any profit advantage. I'm going to do another video which, if you look in the series, will be about that long tail keyword strategy. I won't go too deeply into that now, I'll leave that for another video. So when we've got those results, say, where are you now? Where actually are you dominating in SERPs? Are you in paid search? Are you coming up organically? Are you being registered on Google My Business? And are you running any e-commerce or shopping ads? And here's the killer one, is who do you regard as your competition? Who really are you competing with? And when we find out that the answer to that question, we can very, very quickly find out where the competition is, where they are, and now we've got something tangible to produce a gap, and in that gap we can have a multifaceted project product conversation around a combination of different products and services to provide an overall solution. So the outbound call could well look like this if you're prospecting for yourself, or if you're receiving any help from telesales. The conversation would be around verifying with them that those are the terms, getting them to expand those terms into longer tail keywords, doing a check to find out where they are on SERPs, doing some screen sharing, and then starting to question this idea of if their competition is appearing here, it may be because they're dominating in paid search, or their SEO seems to be more favourable to Google because of the authority and the relevance that Google thinks they naturally have. So that we can then, can you see how we can start to weave in those services? And of course, what we now know by far is that reputation is important, appearing in social media channels, on third-party endorsements to amplify the brand's message, not oneself, not the brand, but through other well-trusted sources. In other words, people that have already bought the service, people have already gone through a reputation management system like ourselves, or like FIFO, like Trustpilot, or like Google+, and said, yeah, they're really great, and it's current, it was a few months ago, a few weeks ago, and all of that adds a legitimate reason why people should want to buy. So I hope that's been useful. Look for my next video, which will be on long tail and why that's really important to know what that is and how it applies to the sales funnel and the buying funnel. Have fun.